All right, let's dive right in and tackle one of the biggest, oldest questions in all of human thought. Do you have free will? I mean, this is a question that has tied philosophers and scientists in knots for, well, thousands of years.
And let me just start by asking you, straight up, are you really in control? I mean, that choice you made to watch this right now, or the decision you'll make about what to eat later, did you freely choose it, or was it all just kind of inevitable from the start? This is the absolute core of the whole debate.
For centuries, the problem of free will has felt less like a question and more like a trap, forcing us into what seems like an impossible choice between two really bleak options.
And this right here lays out that classic paradox. On one side, you've got determinism. That's the idea that the universe is just a perfect chain of cause and effect. If that's true, your choices are just the final link in a chain that stretches all the way back to the Big Bang. You're basically a puppet of the past. Okay, so what about the other side? That's indeterminism. If your choices are truly random, like a roll of the dice, well then you're not in control either, are you? You can't be held responsible for some arbitrary twitch.
And that was the divide. For most of history, you had to pick a side. Either everything is determined or everything is random. And you know what? Neither of those options leaves much room for what we'd actually call freedom or moral responsibility. It's a real bind.
So fast forward to the modern era. You'd think, okay, science will clear this all up, right? Well, for a long time, it actually seemed to make the problem a whole lot worse, building this powerful case against the very idea of conscious control.
The first big scientific clue came from a pretty wild place: quantum mechanics. The discovery that the universe is actually random at the subatomic level, it seemed like it could be a lifeline for free will. But philosophers like Ernst Casimir saw the flaw right away. Randomness doesn't save the day. If your decisions are just based on random quantum firings in your brain, you're not responsible for them. An action caused by pure chance isn't a moral choice. It's just an accident.
So quantum randomness was a total dead end. But the real bombshell, that came when scientists stopped looking at atoms and started looking inside our own heads.
So, in these now famous experiments by Benjamin Libet, people were told to just flex their wrist whenever they felt the urge. And they had to note the exact moment they felt that urge. But here's the kicker. Libet found that measurable unconscious brain activity, this thing called a readiness potential, it began a full half-second before the person ever reported feeling the conscious urge to act.
And this leads to a deeply uncomfortable question. If your brain is already gearing up to do something long before you're consciously aware of deciding to do it, what is your conscious will even doing? Is it just a spectator, showing up late to the party and taking credit for a decision the brain already made? For many, this was the peak of the scientific assault on free will.
But okay, deep breath. What if this whole time we've been asking the wrong question? What if the problem isn't the evidence, but our actual definition of freedom itself? This is where everything starts to shift.
And here's the crucial pivot. A lot of modern philosophers argue that the kind of freedom we actually care about, what some call free will proper, isn't freedom from causes. It's the freedom to act based on reasons, to respond to the world in a way that makes sense.
You see, this new way of thinking just dissolves that old paradox. We usually try to separate causes into internal stuff, like our desires, and external stuff, like the situation we're in. But when you act for a reason, you're bridging that gap. When you say, I took an umbrella because it's raining, the external fact, the rain, becomes your internal reason to act. They're woven together.
So what about randomness? Well, the philosopher William James had this absolutely brilliant idea way back in 1880, inspired by Darwin's theory of evolution. He suggested that chance isn't the decision itself. Instead, chance is the creative engine. It's what produces all these random images and fancies. Basically, a whole menu of possibilities for a rational mind to look at and choose from.
And this brings us to a really elegant solution that combines these new ideas. It's a way for both randomness and rational choice to play their part, creating a coherent, working picture of human freedom.
It's called the two-stage model, and it's beautiful in its simplicity. Stage 1 is the free part. Your brain's random, indeterministic processes generate a whole menu of possible actions and thoughts. This is where creativity and new ideas come from. Then you get to Stage 2, the will part. This is where you come in. You use your character, your values, your reasons, everything that makes you who you are to evaluate that menu and select the best option. And that second stage is determined, all right? It's determined by you.
So to put it super simply,
Randomness isn't the enemy of free will. It's the raw material. It provides all the alternative possibilities, but your deliberate reason-based will makes the final responsible choice. So you can see how this two-stage model just fits. It finds its place in the philosophical landscape not as another competing theory, but as a synthesis. It takes the useful parts of indeterminism, like creativity and new possibilities, and the useful parts of determinism, like rational choice and responsibility, and combines them into one cohesive whole.
Okay, so that's really cool. We've maybe solved a centuries-old philosophical puzzle. But why should you care? What does this actually mean for you, for how you see yourself and your place in the world? It means this is so much more than just an abstract theory. It's literally a blueprint for the most fundamental human experiences. Things like creativity, invention, and the creation of genuine newness in the universe.
I mean, think about it. This two-step process is everywhere. How does biological evolution work? Random genetic mutation followed by deterministic natural selection. How does our own free will work? Random generation of ideas followed by rational willed selection. And in both cases, this process isn't just shuffling old stuff around. It's creating genuinely new information in the universe. The takeaway from all of this is pretty profound. You are not a puppet whose strings are pulled by the past, and you're not just a victim of random chance. You are an active participant. You are a creator. You're an author of new information and new futures.
So, we're going to leave you with this thought. If your mind is a creative engine, constantly generating new possibilities and then selecting among them to actually shape reality, that gives you immense power and responsibility. The question isn't, are you free anymore? The real question is, what will you choose to create next?